Japan's National Intelligence Bureau was officially established on July 31st to strengthen coordination in national security policy and improve the Japanese government's ability to integrate its response to cross-domain threats. Its inauguration represents both Tokyo's institutional response to a growing range of external threats and Japan's more proactive defense posture under Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's leadership. This is what Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara said following the first National Intelligence Council meeting.
この会議の設置というのは、インテリジェンス改革の第一歩となります。国家情報会議および国家情報局の設置によって、インテリジェンスの司令塔機能を強化するということは、昨今の複雑で厳しいこの国際環境において、より質の高い時期にかなった情報をもとに政府として的確な意思決定を行うということにつながっていく、そういった意義があるものと考えております。
So what are the main motivations and considerations behind Prime Minister Takaichi's push to establish a National Intelligence Bureau? What does this move fit into the broader shift in Japan's defense policies, including easing restriction on arms exports, establishing military bases, and boosting defense cooperation with countries such as the Philippines? And how is the international community viewing Japan's expanding military capabilities amid growing regional tension with China and frequent military exercises by China and Russia in Northeast Asia? Hello and welcome to Taiwan Talks. I'm Wen-Ti Song. To unpack these issues, I'm joined by Guo Yuren, Professor and Director of National Sun Yat-sen University Institute of China and Asia-Pacific Studies, and Ronan Fu, Assistant Research Fellow for Political Science at Academia Sinica. Ronan, Professor Guo, thank you both for coming to the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
In February, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi delivered her first policy address to the House of Representatives since taking office, describing Japan's security environment as the most severe since the end of World War II, citing China's activity in waters around Japan, North Korea's growing nuclear and missile capabilities, and the war in Ukraine. Takaichi also pledged to bring forward the revision of Japan's so-called 3 key security documents within this year to lay the foundation for her administration's defense policy. Watch.
戦略3文書を前倒しで改定し、安全保障政策を抜本的に強化します。自らの国を自らの手で守る。その覚悟なき国を誰も助けてくれはしません。我が国の平和と独立、領土、領海、領空、そして国民の皆様の命と安全を守り抜いてまいります。挑戦しない国に未来はありません。
Professor Guo, I'll start with you. Can you give us an overall sense about this NIB? Why is Japan establishing it now, and what is it intended to do?
The issue of establishing a National Intelligence Bureau being discussed for decades long at Japan. And number one reason, Japan has been marked as the paradise for espionage for decades long. And number two is the functionality of intelligence at Japan being distributed to different government agencies and ministries as well, including like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Public Safety, and also including Cabinet Office. They all have their own intelligence functionality. So it is this kind of piecemeal style or intelligence work is actually very bad for Japan. And number three reason is, of course, because of the heavy deployment of U.S. forces in Japan. So, Russia, China been paying a lot of work, intelligence work at Japan because of U.S. forces. So for these three major reasons, again, it's been discussed for decades long. And Prime Minister Takaichi managed to establish that National Intelligence Bureau.
So you talk about there's a counterintelligence objective, there's a protecting U.S. ally perspective, there's also more of an espionage threat as well. So suffice to say that the system for intelligence in Japan right now is a bit more fragmented. How optimistic are you that establishing a National Intelligence Bureau now will go far into fixing that fragmentation?
The first major job for NIB of Japan is to establish a national intelligence strategy. Yeah, within a year.
Right.
So that's gonna be step one.
Yep.
But the establishment of the bureau and also the national intelligence strategy will not help too much to do counterintelligence in Japan because it's lack of legal foundation. Japan is not able to pass the bill of something like Anti-Espionage Act.
Right.
Yeah. So lack of legal foundation will largely impede the functionality, especially on counterintelligence.
Right.
So I believe that's gonna be the next step that Prime Minister Takaichi will try to put her efforts to push for further reform of intelligence work.
Indeed. And yes, please.
And directly on that point, I would like to add that. So the reason why this issue is crucially important is because allies will only share their intelligence to Japan under condition that they believe Japan is able to protect it. Yeah.
Yes, of
so
course.
like without the legal foundation that President Gore just mentioned, without like anti-espionage law, like a very solid legal foundation, even other countries are willing to work with Japan in terms of intelligence sharing. Without that legal foundation, they will be timid. They will be afraid that Japan will not be able to protect the very invaluable intelligence information.
So this system of intelligence reform, do you see this as more personality driven by Prime Minister Takaichi's personal style, or is it more structure driven because of changes in external circumstances?
So in my view, I think this is all structural. So Takaichi is simply the accelerator. She's not the engine. Yeah, so the engine basically started like a long time ago. And Japan actually has been moving in this direction for years, right? So Professor Gore is going to lay out, the further foundation. But suffice to say here, I want to add that, what is different politically at the moment is that Komedo is actually not, within, the governing coalition, and that's key. That's the reason why, Takaichi is able to actually bring a lot of things on the table.
And Professor Gore, let me follow up with you because you just linked intelligence policy to defense policy more broadly speaking, and we know there's quite a few changes happening on defense front under Takaichi. There's defense spending increases, there's force structure changes, as well as trying to develop more long-range strike capabilities. What would you say is the one or two particularly notable defense policy changes under Takaichi to you?
First of all, of course, it is April 21st. Takaichi cabinet basically relaxed these arms export bans. Yeah, so allowing Japan to export, including destroyers or frigate, to the Philippines and to Australia as well. So that was a big move, basically including offensive weapons and equipments. So second is, of course, the increase of defense budget. That was regulated at the three documents of national security year 2022 by Prime Minister Kishida. Tried to increase Japan's defense budget to somewhere like 1.5% of Japan's GDP, which accounts to like 9.3 trillion Japanese yen in 5 years. So, but last year, 2025, Prime Minister Takaichi decided to make a year earlier, which is this year, 2026, to have to increase Japan's defense budget to 9.3 trillion Japanese yen this year. So I believe she will go further to try to increase Japanese defense budget to like 2% of GDP or even more, because the U.S. is giving a lot of pressure, asking Japan to increase its defense budget at least 2.5% of Japan's GDP or even to 3%. That number is basically from the standpoint right now, it's almost like unthinkable because Japanese economic size is not small. It's 4 trillion US dollars
Right.
of its GDP size. So 2% meaning is going to be 80 billion US dollars per year. Yeah. 2.5
Indeed.
is meaning is more than 100 billion US dollars.
Wow.
So it's going to be a huge number for Japan and very heavy physical and financial burden for Japan.
Indeed, and for many years, it used to be under 1% of GDP, right, in terms of defense spending. Yes, Roland.
Yeah, so I just want to add that I totally agree. If I were to just pick one, arms exports will definitely be the one that I handpick. And I would just want to provide some concrete examples to substantiate Professor Guo's argument. So basically, now the approved export of systems could include the following: warships, missiles, and combat drones.
These
so
are things
those,
Japan can export going
yes,
forward.
to eligible security partners. And so that's the reason why Professor Guo and I believe that this is a sea change or a major change, if you will, in Japan's post-war defense policy.
Okay, to follow up with that, then we know that for the longest time after World War II, Japan has this self-defense-oriented force posture when it comes to defense policy. And all these things that's been changing at the moment, lifting ban on exporting offensive equipment, for example.
Yeah.
Japan seems to be pushing the envelope at the moment. How much more pushing do you think Japan can do short of having constitutional or other major legislative changes?
I think right now, I would say some of the direction has already been panned out. So the problem, as I said, is to actually substantiate the direction that they aim to move toward. For example, now they have a new institution, but they don't have the legal foundation to really make it work. Right. Now they basically just remove all the bans. Now they are working with the Philippines and Australia. But we actually want to see Japan to be able to actually work with more eligible security partners. So eligible security partners is turned out to use.
Yep. Professor Guo, how do you see Taiwan in this picture that Ronan just mentioned in terms of cooperation with Japan?
I will describe, it's basically quite clear after President Trump took office, and it's been 3 times that Prime Minister Takaichi meeting with President Trump, and I believe many indicators show that the U.S. already abandoned so-called Indo-Pacific strategy. There's no more so-called Indo-Pacific strategy because of it's taking too long. The time is taking too long, and it's a framework it's slow and without concrete products and fruits from so-called 2019 Indo-Pacific strategy. So according to December last year, the new national security strategy, and January this year, the new national defense strategy of the states, I would believe U.S. is cooperating with Japan to establish horizontal integration of allies' military capacities, including South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines, and Australia.
Yep.
So that was proposed by then the Minister of Defense, Nakatani, the Defense Minister Nakatani of Japan,
Right.
to Defense Secretary Hexus March last year, the so-called One Theater.
One theater.
Yeah, to integrate Korean Peninsula, East China Sea, Taiwan, and South China Sea into one theater, instead of piecemeal, independent theaters. So that's horizontal integration.
Right.
And then this year in April, the commander of U.S. forces in Korea brought up this concept of kill web.
Kill web.
Kill web is basically a vertical integration of allies' military capabilities, ground, sea, air, space, cyber, magnetic. Yeah, put them together is vertical integration.
Across different domains.
When the U.S. and Japan are conducting these horizontal and vertical integrations, Taiwan within the picture is, of course, not an area or a country to be protected. More like Taiwan has to, actively to join this horizontal and vertical integration. So that was clearly described in 2025 National Security Strategy of the states last year, the protection of First Island chain and the security of Taiwan.
Indeed, so Taiwan need to make its role, its contribution felt in the broader regional framework as well. So Japan's Defense Ministry released its 2026 Defense White Paper on August 4th, which described China as Japan's, quote, unprecedentedly greatest strategic challenge, unquote. The report also noted that China and Russia have deepened their security cooperation and are expanding joint military activities in recent years. Japan's government has repeatedly voiced concerns over China's growing military activities as well. Take a look.
Joint flights by Chinese and Russian bombers around Japan have now reached 10 occasions. And now, at this moment, Chinese and Russian naval vessels are conducting joint navigation operations in the waters surrounding Japan. They conducted live fire exercises within Japan's EEZ over the weekend. Each of these is yet another manifestation of the deepening military cooperation between China and Russia.
So we discussed Indo-Pacific strategy earlier. Ronan, can you take us through your views about how does Takaichi's new defense policy agenda fit into the broader U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy? Also, is there room for synergy here between Japan's newfound posture and maybe with Philippines, maybe with Taiwan as well?
Yeah, so before I actually answer the question, I would like to actually see this question from like a bird view kind of perspective. So basically, you can see that Japan's strategic field has changed. It is, we can somewhat jokingly say that in the past, for a long time, and even for decades, Japan actually worried about being dragged into American wars.
That's the entrapment fear.
Yes, but today, its fear is different. It increasingly worries about the opposite problem. What happens if America does not show up when some contingencies were to materialize, right? So that's the reason why when we try to, discuss Japan's role in the Indo-Pacific strategy or its role in the American alliance structure in the Asia-Pacific, we have to bear that in mind. Japan right now actually have to accommodate both possible challenges. So basically, the first is like abandonment, right? The other side of the coin basically is entrapment, but now it's basically more abandonment, more than like entrapment. Okay, so now what we see is actually Japan is trying to make itself more capable, and it's going to create the following dynamics. Number one, it will be more capable of acting independently.
Okay, an autonomous security actor.
That's right. But that doesn't mean that Japan is not going to work with Washington. Japan is trying its very best to work with Washington, but Japan is just trying to prepare for the worst. But like it or not, Japan basically is willing to share, for example, intelligence information in trying to exercise a larger role under the American lead. Now the problem is they are unsure of the American leadership. So that's the reason why they have to, somewhat assert themselves. But as I said, it's actually like Japan trying to strengthen itself within the alliance structure. Oftentimes we will see that, for example, Japan is trying to, be a more capable country, and that's gonna create some friction within the U.S.-Japan alliance. Yes, if Japan is trying to just become simply less reliant on the U.S., but Japan is not trying to make that happen. Japan is trying to prepare for the worst. But if the United States is willing to work, then obviously Japan is willing to follow their lead, making contributions within that framework. So Japan is playing a very fine game, trying to accommodate both challenges from different sides.
Okay. And Ronan talked about Japan trying to become a more capable security actor and also trying to prepare for potentially worst-case scenarios. One thing, Professor Guo, that Japan has been doing is building out defensively along Japan's southwestern islands. What do you think are Japan's objectives and what kind of contingency do you think they might have in mind?
Two major functionality of two major roles of Japan in the new picture of security design from this stage. Number one is, of course, we all know the U.S.-Japan alliance is an asymmetric alliance. The U.S. as major and Japan as minor. But I would say from now on, especially at First Island chain defense, Japan will try to be a symmetric partner or ally to the States. So the heavily deployed missiles, like anti-ship missiles or air defense missiles, along at the Okinawa Islands and also Japanese Southwest Islands. So that proves that Japan is trying to be an equal partner to the States. And number two is from the past couple of months, we've been witnessing that Japan tried to sell or to donate vessels, frigates, destroyer missiles, and also like patrol planes to countries like Australia, the Philippines, even to Indonesia as well. So the second major role of Japan in the new security picture is Japan tried to increase the combat sustainability for the States. As we all know, for example, like the U.S. war against Iran just happened for a couple months, but it already wear out more than 60% of the U.S. precision missiles, including THAAD missiles and PAC-3 missiles. So Japan could play very important role of licensed production U.S. precision missiles and to provide U.S. allies with sufficient asymmetric warfare weapons.
Indeed, so it sounds like Japan is going to play a bigger role in providing that, I guess, defense, military, industrial complex, supply chain resiliency for U.S. and like-minded partners as well. And Roland, let me stay with you. With all these changes on Japan's more proactive defense posture around the region, where do you see this is going? Like, if you were to predict in 5 years' time, what do you think the picture will look like for Japan and maybe for the regional security?
I think that right now, if I may, I would like to actually talk about the public opinion inside Japan.
Sure.
So now the consensus within the Japanese society is that they are all aimed for Japan to strengthen its strength, to build out military powers. What remains divided is the actual use of force. So now they were divided in terms of, okay, so when can we actually resort to force to protect itself? But the fundamental consensus basically right now is that Japan needs to continue building itself, to arm itself, to be a responsible security partner in the Asia-Pacific. And Japanese citizens are actually fine with Japan exercising a larger role in the security architecture in the Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific, if you will. I think in 5 years, you are going to see at least, the public opinion will remain, positive toward this, move. But I still think that they will remain divided in terms of the actual use. But I think that's already some, very positive progress for the past couple of years, precisely due to the China factor. Right, so in 5 years, if China factor remains there, I see a very robust support for Japan to continue building up.
Indeed, it sounds like not only is Takaichi the personality, but also China as a security actor are accelerators, factors as well. Professor Guo, any final comments from you?
I fully agree with Dr. Fu's comment just now. China or President Xi Jinping is one of the major reasons escalating the security situation along the First Island chain and also surrounding Taiwan. So I believe Japan's security role in the coming 5 years will become more and more important. But again, without taking out this constitutional restriction, there is actually very limited that Japan can do if there is really a Taiwan contingency. So I believe Prime Minister Takaichi also said that in the LDP's party congress that she will put on constitutional amendment next spring, especially targeting on Article 9, the so-called pacifist condition of Japan.
We're going to have to leave it there, but thank you, Professor Guo Yuren, Dr. Roland Fu, of course, as always. Thank you both for your insights today.
Thank you.
All right, that's our show. Thank you for tuning in. Please come check us out on YouTube. And until next time, it's good night from us from Taiwan.